Hi, William.
Come on in.
Hi.
William H.
Hope
Macy
so.
is here.
Crashing the train.
Hello.
Yes.
I apologize for my. If you smell something, I apologize.
Oh, don't.
Disgusting.
Jim got excited right before you came in, and when he gets excited, sometimes a little gas sneaks out. So
I love it.
Yeah, my
that's
apologies.
Jim. That's,
Yeah, no, it wasn't. How are you, sir?
I love farts. Pound for
good.
pound,
Good.
nothing is funnier than a fart.
Honestly,
You
that
find
is
that
true.
to be true?
Absolutely. The last 3 films I've done, I tried to put in fart jokes. I've failed every time, but I haven't given up.
What were these films?
The 3 films I directed, they all had extensive fart jokes.
Now, is the joke that somebody cut it, nobody knew who, or is the joke of the place it was done? What was the point of the joke? Like, what was
Oh, keep going. It's, it's no
All
matter
of
what.
it.
Does your wife think fart jokes are funny?
Not as funny as I do. I think maybe guys share the love of farts more than the women.
Will you drop
I
one?
still think they're funny. But
They're
I'm
funny.
also a comedian, so I'm kind of dead inside anyway.
Right,
I'm like
right,
an old
that's
man.
part of it.
Yeah.
Will you drop one in an inappropriate place? A gasser?
What kind of question is that?
Very
Of
fair
course I
question.
do. Of course I do. Who doesn't? No one in this room doesn't.
Oh, I
I
love
mean,
it.
that has to be even better for you because I think people have such reverence for William H. Macy, the great actor, and then if
Yeah.
you're just like
Oh, no.
farting around, then you're not going to get blamed
No
for
one
it.
would. If we were in an elevator, you would be the last person I thought it was.
And you could just
Well,
sit there
I'd stare
satisfied.
at you. I'd stare at you going, holy, she's so pretty. Can you believe that? Did she do that?
That's disgusting.
Oh, my Lord. I finally started taking yoga. And one of the first yoga classes I took in Hawaii, I walked in and I thought, I'm going to like this. They were the most beautiful women there and men.
Right.
I mean, yoga
The
just...
bodies are
it's-
amazing.
Yeah. And we were about 4 minutes into it when someone let one go. It was like a B flat and it was sustained and it was so loud and no one copped to it. And you know, you have to breathe in yoga.
Sure.
And I was laughing for an hour. I couldn't breathe.
It's very common there, I've heard, because of the way the body's contorting and the leg
Yeah.
over the stomach and the stomach muscles.
Yeah.
They say people fart in yoga all the time, and it's just part of it.
Yeah. They say as you're doing certain poses, they're like, we're actually compressing your intestines right now
Yeah.
to allow, like, they're telling you we're wringing your insides right now.
Which is
Something's
nice.
going to come out. Yeah.
And I'm a golden retriever. I must have been in a previous life. I'm gaseous.
Yeah,
You
me
are.
too. Are they bad usually, or are they human, or are they fucking
No.
repulsive?
No, my farts don't stink.
Do you like when people are bothered by them? I don't mind.
You, not only does Jim not mind, Jim Norton has been a comedian for some time now, for many years. He's got many specials. He's got a lot of credits. And I have never seen him happier than when somebody is grossed out by his flatulence. Ever. Ever. I've never
So you just let it
Yeah.
rip. You're
At times, yeah.
every
Oh,
morning.
Loudly everywhere in public.
All the time.
Starbucks.
not me.
Yeah.
No, you're quiet.
Oh, I'm Lutheran. I would never do that.
Just sneak it out and blame the devil.
A little sin backstairs.
Yeah, you got this chair. You need some oil in this thing.
Whenever you're in a room with William H. Macy and he goes, is it just me or is there an evil spirit in here? You know?
Oh, it's him.
Yeah, it's him.
Were you religious growing up?
No, not so much. Pretty religious background. My grandmother was very religious. My father was pre-ministerial for a while until he just couldn't do it. And interestingly, I went to Sunday school one time, and this guy drew a big circle on the board, and he said, this is earth, and this is heaven, and this is purgatory. And I said, what's beyond there? And he said, there's nothing beyond there. And I said, well, there's got to be something beyond there. And he said, no, that's God. And I said, well, but what's beyond that? And he sort of changed the subject. I get home, there's my dad. He said, what did you say in Sunday school? And I told him the whole story, and he said, you don't have to go anymore.
Wow.
Wow.
Was it because
That's
you were
awesome.
questioning it, or because the guy didn't have a good answer for you?
Yeah, the guy was an idiot.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to ask you about. It was something about your about the movie. Oh, the film you did that you got made that you said you went to the altar a couple of times with, and you couldn't get done. Why couldn't you? It's about someone going to an AA meeting who falls in love with. He's a stripper Rosario Dawson plays. Why was that film so hard to get made?
Because films are hard to get made. Because if I told you the plot, you would be scratching your head. It doesn't. You know, it's not dum da dum dum,
Right.
which was famously sold just on that phrase. And people get really nervous before they write multiple millions of dollars in checks.
They do, yeah. And so
Especially now, I would imagine. Now it's tougher than I think it's been before because we're kind of in the age of the blockbuster not just being
Yep.
2 blockbusters for summer and 1 for Christmas and we're good for the year. It's like, no, we need one every weekend.
It's hard to sell an independent film too.
it is. What
Is
do you think?
digital making it easier? Is that are we at the place now where digital is there enough money in that to make it actually something we could say this is a real release?
Yes, but it hasn't happened yet. I don't know what it'll look like, but at some point the independent film market will come back because there's a need for it, and meaning people want to see indie films more than television, or different than television and different than blockbusters. They love those films, but we have to figure out the platform where the filmmakers can make some money.
You know, you mentioned in a statement, you said something about Harvey Weinstein about how everybody knew and that stuff's got to stop, but the other side, which I thought was very honest, was that he was good for the film industry because of the work and the things that he greenlit and that other people wouldn't have touched. So do you think that this whole scandal, what's happening, because if a guy like him is no longer going to be making decisions, films like that are going to suffer?
No.
No, you won't.
No, I think it's all really, really good. I'll tell you what turned my head. It was about 2 or 3 months ago. I heard a couple of women who had been called in to the office, and it was just to sleep with them. And they said it destroyed their confidence. They walked out of there thinking that they were worthless, that they didn't have talent. And when I heard that, I thought, that's more than despicable. That's a crime.
Yeah.
They didn't walk out thinking, he's a lout, I hate his guts, or I hate all men. It hurt them deeply. And for that, he can't be in our business.
No, but I mean, do you think that like the idea that I'm not talking about that side of him. I'm talking about the side that greenlit the type of films that we've seen greenlit before. Do you think that aspect of it will suffer? Like the films like you're talking about, where that most people wouldn't touch, that he might have touched. Do you think it's going to be harder to get that kind of work done?
Well, the short answer is no, but the longer answer is who cares? It doesn't matter. I mean, we don't make another independent film for a year. That doesn't matter. We've got to stop this right now. It's, and I think it's the tip of the iceberg, and I think the world would be better if more women ran it.
How do you make sure that what's happening is supposed to be happening on like a set like Shameless, where it is a sexually charged show, where you have a ton of nudity, where, you know, the actresses on that show, especially Emmy Rossum, is, you know, naked on half the episodes. Like, how do you make sure that those women on your show are still comfortable?
It's an excellent question. First of all, our business is really a great business. It was 5 or 8 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. When you start a show, they call you in for a little seminar about what constitutes sexual harassment. And as embarrassing and silly as we all thought they were, we do it every single time. So it starts the conversation. And you're not wrong on a show like Shameless. Interestingly, I went into the writer's room because I wrote one of these episodes a couple of seasons ago. And John Wells sort of told me, this is a rarefied air. You can say anything. You've got to just open it up and let it out without feeling embarrassed by the fact that half the room's women and the other half are men. And they do that. And inevitably, someone would say something and everyone would go, oh, my God, how can you live with yourself that you even thought that? And there's a long pause, and then somebody says, but you know what you could do? So, you know, the answer is we talk about it. We talk about it, and there are places where you let it all go and you let your demons out and all the disgusting things you want to say. And there are places where it's completely inappropriate. And the bottom line is it's men who use their power over either men or use their power over men or women. And it's wrong and it's a crime, and we got to drum them out of our business.
What would, you said like you went to those sexual harassment things. What would they say in those things that you wound up using that at first you thought was silly, that like made sense?
Oh, you know, when I say silly, it was silly, but we would, they call out scenarios. They call out scenarios, and they would ask us, is that legal? Do you think that's in or that's out? And it gets you thinking about it. I got to say, just calling us into a room saying sexual harassment is a real thing, let's talk about it, that goes 90% of the way because it makes you think about it.
Because I think when you're presented some of those issues in the context of the class or whatever you want to, it's like obvious, right? You're like, well, yeah, duh, you can't do that. And then you're like, wait a minute, I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Totally.
Well, that's interesting, too, because I feel like the majority of people who would go into that meeting are people who already know, like, yeah, of course you don't do this here, But the people who don't know that already, I'm like, would that really stop them though? Because in their minds, they're still like, oh, whatever. If I'm in this situation and I want to, I feel like those are the type of people that just would anyway. Do you feel like it does actually stop some stuff from happening?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Also, I think there's an important demarcation point. You know, there's a difference between boorish behavior and a crime, and it seems to me, if I say untoward things to you, embarrassing things to you, then I'm a bore. But if I use my position over you as your employer to try to get you to have sex with me, that's a crime.
Right. Yeah.
So have you seen things on the set over the years that like at the time didn't like it registered as mildly inappropriate that you look back now and go, yeah, that was kind of harassing. That was what he was being way over the line.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, interestingly, the times I remember, the times that I spoke up and said, you're an asshole. You shouldn't have said that. But I think the guilt that we all share is that all these rumors about these guys who were just hounds and wouldn't take no for an answer, everybody knew. Everybody knew, and it was tolerated. And
Well, what responsibility is there when it is just a rumor, right? Because you say, because the people who know should be coming forward, but the people who are aware of the rumor, there's not usually, if you're just aware of that rumor, like the Louis C.K. stuff, we talked about it at length, but like we're aware of this rumor, right, in the comedy community, but with no names attached to it and no direct situations to call from.
Right,
I'm sitting here going like, that's probably not true because I don't actually have any evidence.
You don't have a person attached to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't know. I think this is an evolving thing, and I think we have to be hip to the fact that things that were okay in my grandfather's day are illegal now. Things that were okay in my father's day will get you fired now. We are evolving, and I think our shame is that it took this long, but it was inevitable, and it's healthy, and we should learn from it and go forward.
When you told a guy he's an asshole on the set, was it a bullying? Because John Bernthal was here and he was talking about Kevin Spacey and how he felt like he was a bully. Was the guy doing something sexually inappropriate, or was it just kind of just being an asshole?
Being an asshole.
Was he shocked that you said something to him?
Yeah, I remember one time in Washington a long time ago, this guy was talking about the kind of chicks that make good girlfriends and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, you should get a German Shepherd. I think you'd really be happy then. And he almost put my lights out. He said, fuck you, man. You know.
Yeah.
Well, he was making, what was it? He wanted real submissive, obedient.
I called him on his shit. I just said, you're a Cro-Magnon. And, he didn't like that.
Was he somebody you had liked before that or no?
No, I hardly knew him. I was just a big mouth. Could have gotten my lights put out.
You were just opening your mouth. You probably shouldn't have. That happens. But we forget that on sets, you guys are working very closely together for hours and hours. So you really do get to know.
And sometimes you would get annoyed by people, right? And you just hear these and you're like, enough. Just shut up.
Yeah.
And it's a hip business. I mean, the women and men in this business are really cool. And it's uncomfortable when you're doing a sex comedy and you're going as close to that line as you can anyway. That's your job. Right. Most of the people in my business are really cool about this is under imaginary circumstances, and we know where the line is. And
do you start going back because like Shameless started 8 years ago, I guess, right? And even 8 years ago, I feel like it was a different time. Like this is kind of new, and even though people had feelings and everything, it was just not acknowledged. Do you think like early on, like we probably shouldn't have been doing this or that, or did you have this system that you talked about before pretty well mapped out from the beginning?
Well, on Shameless, I'm the old guy. I'm the eminence grise, as the French say. I think I pronounced that right. So I felt I felt compelled to set some sort of a standard there. And interestingly, on Shameless, for better or for worse, I'm dropping my knickers all the time, and I had a lot of sex scenes with a lot of women. And from the very first, I took them aside and I said, I know this is embarrassing, but I'm number one on the call sheet. You give me a high sign. If there's anything you don't like, I'll do your bidding for you. You just give me a wink.
Wow.
And I'll stop everything until we find out what you don't like.
Have you gotten in those scenes? I've done like one kissing scene in my life. And it was actually with Nina Hartley. It was independent comedy.
Get out of here.
Yeah. It was the only time I've kissed a girl on screen. And she, because Nina's open and sexy, and she's like, she put my hand on her breast. She goes, you want to. Like, she didn't care. But have you ever gotten physically turned on while you're doing it?
No.
No.
And my hat's off to any guy that can. There's 12 Teamsters standing there looking at you. You get an erection with 12 Teamsters
Well, no, I don't even mean
watching.
an erection. I don't mean that far, but I don't mean
You
necessarily.
just mean like mentally stimulated?
Like, the reason I was going to ask you is because you're married to an actress.
Yeah.
So, like, knowing that you might have felt a certain way, do you get jealous if she's done a scene like that? Like, you're like, no, I know in the scene you can start thinking.
Oh, I see what you're saying. My solution to that is I don't watch. I know she's had those scenes, and I just sort of close my eyes and hum until they're over. And I think she does the same. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it right, you've sort of got to entertain the idea. You've got to pretend like you're in love or in lust or something like that.
Right.
But I find it easy to do, and it's really enjoyable. It's sort of taking a tour of foreign underwear for free.
You're getting away with it, and you're allowed to because it's
Yeah.
not. But, so if she's getting away with it and allowed to, you don't like to see it, but you know what it is.
Yeah.
So
She's so smart. I did this film called The Cooler.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, that's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord, there's a bunch of sex in that. And I was bemoaning it because I was 50 years old when I did that film. And I'm in okay shape, but still. And she pulled me aside before I left, and she said, I just got to tell you, it sounds like you're preparing to fail. If you're going to do those scenes, you better jolly well go do them. And if you're not going to do them, you better get them cut. So either get in or get out. And I took her to heart, and I met with the director, and we talked them through, and I thought of them as any other scene. I thought, what's different at the end of this sex scene than at the beginning? What transpired? Why is this moving the plot forward? And in about 3 of the scenes, Wayne Kramer directed it. He said, you're right. Doesn't move it forward, and he cut them. And the others, we talked about what it did. So I had something else to do rather than just running around trying to hide young Will from the rest of the world.
if you enjoy,
And by the way, can I say that Shameless is on what night? It's on Sundays at 9:00 on
you.
Showtime, season 8.
I was there. If you
Young Will, I thought was a person until you started like, oh, I get it.
if you enjoy, if you enjoy those scenes for that reason, like being in Boogie Nights, does that make you miserable on some level because you start relating to that guy and becoming like, do you have to bring up like feelings of rejection that you have had in real life in the past and being like, this does happen to people. This could happen. He could be sitting there with his wife in the driveway.
Yeah,
Oh.
of course, she could have an ass in her cock.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? I said that 3 times. I said it correctly about
Sure.
twice, but Paul Thomas Anderson decided that there was some truth in that. That's the
Dude,
take he
your
used.
wife is being sodomized, and this guy's trying to talk lights. It was such a great.
Well, we
know.
just have to get it done.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
But do you
I'm
like-
not the kind of guy that. It's probably a fault of mine. I don't take stuff home. I don't become the character. I've always thought that's more mental illness than acting. So when I say I enjoy it, it's
just in the
take
moment.
it's a measured sort of.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre thing to do. It's a bizarre day.
Yeah.
How
Do you
was
feel-
Burt? Sorry, Kelsey. How was Burt? How was Burt Reynolds on that set? Because you hear mixed reviews about how he was not happy, he was difficult, he didn't like the script, and he was so amazing.
The
in that
legend is that he didn't like the movie, and he's mad at his agent after he watched the premiere. And then once it got nominated, he was like, "Hey, this is a great movie."
As far as I know, that's all true. I didn't have any problems. I made a joke one time, and I thought he was going to punch me. He doesn't have much of a sense of humor, but yeah,
What was the
I
joke?
think it's pretty true. He was talking about, we were talking about some shot, and he said, well, what did I do on Smokey and the Bandit? And I said, well, we know how that turned out. And boy, That was not funny.
I
Wow.
didn't like that.
It got
I like
nothing.
Smokey and the
It was
Bandit.
great.
Yeah.
Jackie Gleason's the best comedy performance ever
Oh
done.
my
It's-
God, it was great. I don't know. My mouth sometimes leads my brain.
I love that.
You always fuck with the alphas too, don't you?
I do.
Go right for the top. Yeah.
Did you do that when you were growing up, like in high school and stuff? Did you?
I did.
You didn't. You
I
weren't
did.
afraid.
You know, I fisticuffs were never my thing, so I thought I better have a razor sharp wit, or
Yeah.
I'm gonna get killed.
And so Burt Reynolds kind of looked at you like, "What do you?"
Yeah. And somebody else spoke quickly, and diffused it.
Oh, the awkward cover-up.
Yeah, the turd in the punch bowl.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
So I watched. I've been watching the new season of Shameless, and my number one question for you is, what the hell happened to Liam? It's a different kid, right?
Oh yes,
Yeah. What happened?
Oh yes.
he's the third.
Is he the third?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, for one, they kept growing up too fast on us,
Okay.
and
Liam is like the little kid in the show. Yeah.
ultimately, this season they wanted to start giving him stuff to do. And before, we had just gotten babies who looked great, and we had to hire an actor. And
I see.
so Christian came on board, and he's really good.
He is the scenes the scenes where he's in the school without spoiling anything.
He's great.
How old was the other kid?
Well, gosh, I guess they were 2 or 3 years old.
Oh, okay.
Some of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was the kid in the last seasons. He never said anything. He'd just been around forever. So
Yeah.
It just sucks though if you work with if your scenes like in Lost, the guy Harold Perrineau when he had the scenes with Walt. Whenever you have scenes with a kid over a series, it's like it's hard because the kids grow up so quickly, and then you got to write the guy out because without the kid in the scene, he looks like he's 15. He's supposed to be 8.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
We're talking about that with Stranger Things. They were like Stranger Things. They say has like a 5-season arc in front of it. And you're like, you better do them right now then.
Oh yeah,
Right?
those kids are gonna be so old.
Well, they shot
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings like that, right? They shoot them all at once. And you can just do that and then have them go
They
out
did.
and
They
promote.
haven't done it with Stranger Things yet, but they're gonna have to.
He talked before about this. Do you think on Stranger Things, are they sexualizing them in the press too much for young people? Like in the photo shoots? It
I
refers
said
to-
I thought
yeah,
that
yeah.
they were.
Do you think that-
Really?
I haven't followed it enough. I don't know.
I just now when I see the press come out with them, they're like really over stylized and over made up, and just they look like there's a fine line, and I feel like they're going into that Hollywood thing where they look like small adults
Yeah,
instead
I
of
don't
like
like
kids,
that.
and I don't like that.
I've got 2 daughters. I don't like that.
Right.
stuff.
When we
Yeah.
raised The Omen, I brilliantly pointed out that The Omen did the same thing because Damien had on a suit when he was 3.
Little boys in suits, though, is cool.
They are
Yeah,
kind
I
of
don't know,
fucking
it's
cool,
the
yeah.
exact same thing.